My name is Daphne, founder and host of 98%. 98% originates from one statistic that only 2% of collegiate athletes go pro. Then it hit me. What happens to the other 98%? This platform will be sharing amazing stories from former collegiate and pro athletes who are navigating life after sports. We are here to celebrate their journey and share experiences to encourage and inspire. You never know who will hear your story and be impacted by your journey. Welcome to 98%. So my guest here is Sammy Kolbas. Come on in.
Hello.
Welcome. Thank you for coming on to 98%.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Sammy, you did gymnastics at Arkansas, correct?
I sure did, yes.
Yes. So tell me, how did you get into gymnastics?
I actually started, it's kind of crazy. You ask any former gymnast, they either start at like 2 or 3 or like 7. I was one of like those 2-year-olds. So my mom just put me in it, and I played like soccer. That was boring because I didn't always have the ball, right? So I didn't really know what to do. I tried, t-ball, but gymnastics just kind of stuck. It was fun for me, right in the beginning, before, your body starts hurting every day, right? But that's how I got into it, and I actually quit in the 7th grade because I thought I wanted to, hang out with the girls and like have fun and go to the mall and the movies. And then that was actually for my first back injury. But I went back in the 8th grade and told myself that I wanted to get a scholarship, and then that's how I found myself at Arkansas.
Yeah, so I remember we were talking a bit, you didn't want to do college gymnastics. So what made you?
It's a funny story. So my brother actually was a really good hockey player. So I grew up in the north in Chicago, so it's like that's a really prominent sport. And so he was starting to get recruited for college, and I was really jealous because I was no longer like the star athlete of the family. Between me and him, I was always a little bit better, right? So I'm just kidding, he was great. So obviously he was getting recruited by college, right? So I picked up the phone one day because it was like a recruiter calling, and I thought that was cool. And I was like, well, if he's gonna be doing that, like I can do that too. So that's what really made me have the drive to go get a scholarship and just help my dad out, not have him have to pay for school.
Yeah. I think I know growing up, my parents didn't have the knowledge that you could get a scholarship for athletics, and now I have a whole degree from UCLA and nobody paid a dime. Right. It's awesome, and we were able to kind of use my experience to help my sister out. When she was trying to figure out if she wanted to run college track or not, and she ended up running track. But yeah. So what was your college experience like? You just said that you broke your back.
Yeah, twice. Yeah, one time wasn't enough for me. So I actually broke my back. The first year was my senior year of high school. So I was trying to rehab it good enough in order to, start and actually compete my freshman year. So with gymnastics, a lot of the times you'll go like in the summer before like actual fall semester, and you start to get acclimated with what it's like to, train and rehab there. So I got there, started rehabbing, and it just, it really wasn't as strong because I probably should have rehabbed a little bit longer. So it was probably halfway through the season that it refractured. So at that point, it was trying to either take a bet on myself and see, I kind of almost got bullied into choosing to medically retire. Just like the way that the question was posed, right? It's like, well, if you decide to, move forward with surgery and come back, like you're gonna need to do X, X, and X, like in order to keep your scholarship. And knowing that the whole point that I wanted to go back to, gymnastics was to get a scholarship and have my dad not pay for it, like that decision inside, I felt more confident just to, kind of say goodbye to the sport and rehab and just try to move on. But trying to find your identity while still at school because you're not competing anymore was, just impossible. So it was kind of a really confusing time for me because I was still with the team, but just not competing, and that was really weird for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring it back a little bit. So when you medically retired, like, did you know that was an option to keep your, did you know it was an option to be able to keep your scholarship?
Yeah, and I did. But it was like if I came back and I performed well, they would, take it away. So if I came back my junior year or my sophomore year, whenever that happened, didn't perform at whatever level, they threatened that could be pulled. So it was probably better just to medically retire. So it's it was almost, I felt like bullied because I wanted it to be okay. If I rehabbed and it just wasn't good enough and I wasn't gonna be the best athlete that I could, to compete at that elite level. Cause fracturing it again, the moment that your alarm wakes up, your just whole body trying to get out of bed and just do normal day-to-day activities, bending down to pick something up was a struggle. So trying to flip your body around and do it with a smile on your face and oh yeah, everything's great, it feels fine. That just gets to a point where you just get exhausted of it.
I mean, it's just crazy the amount of stories I've heard from gymnasts alone, the pain that you guys endure, the injuries that you endure, and then the transition time to get back into the sport. For a fractured back, the back is not, it doesn't heal easily. So once you fractured it the second time, you knew it was.
I knew right away because there's certain things that normal day to day you wouldn't even feel, but when it's fractured, you feel that. So it was it was so disheartening because I was really again so quickly. And so I would try and I got epidural shots, so the shot that you get before pregnancy or giving birth, right? That was that gave some relief. And before total shots were banned, do you know what those are?
No.
You can't do it anymore. It was after my freshman year that they actually banned it because I believe, don't quote me on this, for NFL players, some of them were getting liver or kidney disease from that because it's obviously was not meant to be injected that much. But we were the last class that was able to do it, so before every meet, it would be the most injured ones in the locker room, and you would just be standing up against the wall waiting for the doctor just to come, inject everyone with it. I have a permanent bruise on my butt cheek from it. But you felt like Iron Man, right? The next day, I felt like I got hit by a bus, but as soon as it kicked in, I was I'm ready to go. I can't feel it.
I wish they had one for my shins.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, okay. So so you're talking a bit about identity. So what do you currently do now?
I am on our franchise sales team with Goosehead Insurance, so I'm responsible for a whole entire territory and the growth, and we're a publicly traded company now, so my performance and my team's performance directly impacts our stock price and things like that, so it's pretty cool, but a lot of pressure some days because you can't just walk in and not feel like working because there's something else that your decisions are impacting. So I feel super responsible for that, but I also love it.
So it's really interesting because a lot of companies target athletes to go into sales. So was that your experience, or how did you get into sales?
So I'm sure this is similar for a lot of people. Right when you come out of college, it's the direct marketing companies that target you, right? The pyramid schemes. And I wanted to do something in marketing. And quite frankly, or to be transparent, I didn't think I was going to be in sales. I didn't think that I would be good at it. Yeah. Just because, we were talking about, your income is basically directly tied to how well you perform. And so I was thinking about it, I was I like money and I don't trust myself yet to have a role where that's the case. So I fell into the sales role by accident. I reached out to one of our vice presidents and was I don't know what your team does, but she's, this real badass, blonde, right? And she built our department. She actually went in to be interviewed, or not interviewed, she was trying to sell us payroll software. And our president snatched her up and told her start this franchise division. So I trusted her. I was I want to follow her lead, right? Yeah. And so I got onto the team, and then I realized I'm selling franchises, and I was cool. I don't really know how hard this is gonna be, but I trust the company, and I just fell in love with it. So I love it.
I love that. I think there's a little stigma against sales for for athletes that's not the only thing that we're able to do, but they really just do target us for it. And
It's the mindset you have to have.
it's a mindset. So talk a bit about like the strengths that an athlete would have as a sales rep.
So like on my hard days, right, like I'm working with insurance agents, okay? Like I'm pretty sure like not everyone gets out of college, they're like, I want to be an insurance agent, right? Like let me go work for State Farm, Jake from State Farm, whatever. So you've done a lot of hard things, right? Like you've had to overcome like difficult situations and circumstances. And like when it comes to sales, like there's nothing that's going to be harder than what you've already gone through. So like it's a little bit easier for me to like get through like tough days if I like lose a deal, or you know people are just not responding the way that like I need them to, and like I almost get frustrated. But it's really easy to pull myself out of there and like still like hit goal and exceed goal, because I don't get stuck in a funk, right? For salespeople, what's really difficult is they get stuck in funks. And like, you know, we work quarter by quarter, and a lot of the times, again, like your income is directly impacted if you hit budget, if you exceed budget, right? So it's important for people who can have that strong mindset, and cold calling like is involved, right? Like you start the role and your whole objective is to find qualified leads. And like I'm on the Northeast territory, okay? So like I grew up in Chicago, so I'm like, you know, if you tell me, you know, go kick rocks or whatever, I'm not gonna freak out. Whereas like someone that comes in, they might start like crying on the phone. Like we can't do that.
That's me.
No, but I feel like a lot of the times, like athletes, again, like I've got screamed at, got shoes thrown at me before. Like no one is gonna like really shake my confidence if they like hang up on me on the phone. I'll be like, all right, next. So
Yeah, I love that. I mean, gymnastics, coaches are tough.
yeah, they're brutal.
Yeah.
And it's because they care. They're like, I'm just yelling at you because I care. And I'm like, I feel like there's another avenue that we can take here where you can show me that. You know, like throwing a shoe at me, I don't feel loved, right?
No, I would literally sue my coach if he threw a shoe at me.
Yeah. I was like, what the hell?
Like, you're yelling at me because you hate me.
Right.
My goodness. No, I love that. So I want to get into your challenges, like the challenges you face as an athlete. And I want to actually preface this to say that, Sammy, just from what I've heard of your story, and depending on whatever you want to share, you are strong. And your story is one of triumph, strength, and resilience. And I am honored to be sitting here with you, sitting here with a strong woman, and a woman with a voice that can influence and impact. So with that being said, what are the challenges that you faced in college?
The challenges in college, I mean, like we talk a lot about identity after college, but I feel like there was a lot of identity, challenges for me while I was an athlete and transitioning from high school to college, right? Because, you're talking about going from being like the big fish in a small pond, right? And then I was state champion, regional champion, national champion, and before college, right? And then you get to college and, just to share some insight, like I was coming in with a fractured back. I was going to top 10 SEC school. My mom just passed away. So I'm dealing with a lot personally, right? And then trying to trust these new coaches because again, like the coach that I was with for more than 10 years, right? So they kind of play a different role, good or bad, right? Prior to that. So you're thinking that these people, and you're continuing to think that these people have your best interest, right? But it really comes to a form of almost like manipulation into making you think that it's like the decisions being made are for like the greater good, even though you're not really feeling it like with you, right? So part of my generation of like my graduating class, I was in the most successful region like prior to gymnastics or prior to college gymnastics. Like all my former teammates all went to top 5, top 10 schools, Big 10, or what is it now, Big 11 or 12, whatever you want to call it. Michigan, the really good schools, Oklahoma, UCLA, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, like the best schools. And it was because, my coach had, connections with the the coaches at those schools, right? So you're like, okay, like I have to put all my trust into this person and do whatever this person says and don't question this person. So I was like raised in a culture where you don't ask questions. So one of the challenges was like, am I a strong enough person to be questioning someone? Because every time that I've, tried to sit there and say, this doesn't feel right, this doesn't sound right, this person is not acting right, you're shut down. And, that can be something where it just triggers something inside. So like you're fearful of ever speaking up and just kind of falling in line the rest of your life, right? So, those were a lot of challenges because like for me, like I was trying to process a lot of things like my freshman year, and then my sports career just ended like that, right? Yeah. So, I was just kind of all sorts of ping pong in my head going on. I didn't know who I was, how I was supposed to act, and, how I was supposed to feel. So also trying to like process a lot of things that were happening prior to my college career, and then transitioning out and having it be like something that's national news, and trying to like act right like in a professional space where on TV they're gonna have news playing and the things that are going on, I walk past it and like that's going on and I have to act unfazed, right? That's what it almost feels like. But I've accepted the fact that it's okay to feel things and not be timid and afraid to say that you were part of something. But that took a lot of courage and therapy, right?
Yeah, so I'm gonna slow you down. I'm gonna slow you down a little bit. So you've talked about grief, and then you've talked about dealing with, things that happen in national news, and we're being like super vague. Do you mind if we, like?
Yeah. So again, like part of my generation, of my graduating class, the ones like prior and like after, were part of the Nassir scandal.
Yeah.
So, my coach was directly involved with the individual who was hired him to be the doctor of like their team, right? Yeah. So the training camps that I had to go to, the different meets that I was at, like he was around and treating people and treated my teammates and things. So being someone where like you knew something was going on, and I honestly didn't even know that it was as large as it was until it came out in the news, because like I didn't know that my coach knew, right? So there comes that trust factor,
yeah.
Right? So trying to learn to trust people is really difficult for me, right? Because I want to believe that people have my best interests, but with something like that happening and trying to process it, and me being 28 years old now, it's just almost like, when does this like get any easier? And it doesn't. Like that's okay. I can't make myself feel guilty about that. And I think by listening to other people's story, like, some days it might like hit you where like you feel guilty that like you didn't speak up, because again, like what I heard, like when my teammates got treatments, because thank God I didn't see them for my back, right? And like that was like the whole thing. I thought it was weird, but I wasn't gonna go like tell anyone, tell my parents, like, because everyone trusted everyone. So, it's weird, right? Because that was my whole childhood, and I'm like, what's going on,
And I think it's really important to note that your past does not define who you are today, and it doesn't. That's not your identity, right? And with everything that you've dealt with, from your mom's passing to the scandal to your back breaking, and losing trust, like. You can't allow that to influence. Like it can influence, but not deter you from being the best version of yourself, and really enjoying life as it should be. And I just love seeing you here, just like happy-go-lucky, smiling. You're upbeat, and you're living your life with joy. And I think it's something to be said that like athletes go through a lot in their collegiate careers. Not everybody's experience is fun and games,
cutter,
and
everything that you thought it was gonna be. If anything, it was the complete opposite.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. And hearing stories like yours today, it's inspiring now. Like you have a job where you're running franchises. Like, what is? Does anyone even know that isn't even an option, an opportunity? You know, so I love that for you. Okay, so you're now in sales, selling franchises. But to get to that point, how do you present yourself in interviews or at your job now that you're in a place years after your sport?
Yeah, I can definitely say, like, for my company, I have gotten so much professional development. And so, like, transitioning from, like, being an athlete, right, and, like, having all those skills, I really had to learn about myself and know about, like, the skills that I brought to the table from a corporate level, right? Like, I'm a really aggressive person. I'm a really persistent person. I'm a really passionate person, and that's what really helps me in my role, because I'm changing people's, like, the trajectory of their life. Like, I'm taking them out of a really bad situation and bad opportunity, and, like, showing them and educating them and teaching them how to, you know, create a better life for them and their family. So, like, what I bring to the table is I like to educate people, and I'm passionate about it. I don't like to fit, you know, square pegs and round holes, which I think a lot of sales professionals have that stigma, like you were saying. Like, if it's not a fit, like, I'll literally tell you, like, I think this conversation is, you know, run its course, because I don't really think that what I'm offering is a good fit for you. And sometimes people try to, like, talk me into, like, believing that they are, and I think, like, that's kind of cool, because I get to qualify people, right? So I can be like, nope, next. So
I love that
it's that power trip a little bit.
Yeah, no, I love that you're passionate about the people.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to be said about just even being an athlete and being a teammate. You know, you want to see others succeed. You want to see, you know, your coaches succeed, your teammates succeed, your trainers succeed. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that you're able to bring that into your workplace and be a mentor to others and educate them, like, that's beautiful. And that's something I love to do. And being that you're on 98% and you're sharing your story, somebody's gonna hear your story and be like, how do I get to sell franchises?
Yeah, Goosehead's always hiring. So, you know, we have offices all across the country, so feel free to DM me, because I'll pass it along. Yeah.
Yes, the power of the referral. Let's talk about it. Yes. Sammy, I just want to thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your story. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, love it. I love this idea, and I think you can impact a lot of people, and I think that's really cool. So anything I can do to help out, hopefully this touched someone's you know, heart or relatable in some way. You're not alone. So
yes, you are not alone. I do have a game for us to play.
Love games.
It's called Shouting Charades, and you have to describe your actions. You can't describe the word or do the word. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, you ready?
Sounds complex, but let's do it.
Okay.
I'm getting ready for bed. I have this book that I always read in the morning and at nighttime, and I just finished the last page, and I'm bowing my head with my hands together.
Are you reading your Bible? Reading the Bible?
What do you do when you read a Bible?
You pray?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Okay, so I am in a car. Did I say it? Sorry. Okay, I have the other. I have another word.
Okay.
Okay. I am. I jumped into a pool of water. Okay. Was this the example you used? Sorry.
Swimming.
All right, my turn. Okay, so so I am putting one foot in front of the other.
Walking.
I spin around. I'm trying not to fall off.
Fall off.
Yeah. Of this this
the tightrope
object.
walking.
Close.
Or also, can you not fall off?
Like
balancing.
Yeah, but on what?
A beam.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that would be relevant, right?
Yeah.
Gymnast beam.
It was balance beam. You got it?
Oh, I got it?
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming onto the show. It was so
Thank you.
fun. Yeah.
Loved it.